Stand by. We're going live. We're going live. 10, 9, going live. 8, 7, 6, 5, going live. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to 10 Seconds to Air. I'm Alita Guillen. Today we're talking about making a tech idea come true. What do I mean? Well, we all have ideas swirling around, and once in a while we say, wouldn't that be a great app? I could make millions. Well, if it were that easy, we'd all be doing it, right? Only 10% of startups make it, and even fewer make it big. There are many skills necessary to make your vision a reality, but the most important one is often overlooked: communication. Founders have to convince investors, build a team, persuade partners and customers. The best ones develop a strong communication style and the tools to adapt to specific audiences. Today's guest didn't just have an idea, but built it into a business and sold it to Airbnb for $400 million. Sam Shank is a tech entrepreneur and the co-founder of HotelTonight, the same-day hotel booking app. Sam sold the app to Airbnb a few years ago and then stayed on to run it until just last fall. So what's his secret? How did he do it? What communication style and tools did he use to succeed? And what's next for him? Sam joins me now to talk about all of it. Hey, Sam, thank you for calling in and joining. I wish you were in person, but we'll take you over the phone. How are you?
Great to be here. Yeah, I'm very good.
So did I capture that? Is it, did I capture a little bit? I know there's so much more to talk about, and you've had other businesses, and we're going to get into that because everyone sort of thinks like lightning in a bottle. I have an idea, boom, and it happens, right?
Yeah. I wish it was that easy, but there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and ups and downs along the way for sure.
All right. So the starting point for us here today is communication. You had the idea. You needed to explain it many times, get funding, rally employees. You had layoffs. What was going through your mind 10 seconds before some of those big moments?
Yeah, one of the things that sort of ties together the product and my ideas and the communication style that I have is simplicity and taking a big idea and a complex idea and really boiling it down into something incredibly straightforward and simple. And, that's also self-serving for me because I can remember it easy.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's important for conveying an idea because people have short attention spans. People don't necessarily remember things very easily, and they want to, compartmentalize. So I like a couple of ways of doing that. One is for the service of HotelTonight, for example, is a very short description of what it is. So an elevator pitch, is 30 seconds. I think that's way too long. I think you lose an audience in just a few seconds. So with HotelTonight, I condensed the description of what we did and the value proposition of what it was and what it brought to the world into 5 words, which was same day mobile hotel deals. So people knew exactly what it was. It was different because it was mobile. And back then, it was only like 1 or 2% of hotel bookings were on mobile. So that was kind of novel. It was same day, which was different as well. And then connecting the two things, it made sense that you're going to get a deal because it's same day. Anyway, that's deconstructing the whole 5 words. What's most important there is it's 5 words. And I often ask entrepreneurs what they're doing, and sometimes they go on for minutes and minutes, and,
Right.
and I'm lost by that point.
Right. So did you come to that on your own right at the beginning, or was that something that evolved where you had gotten into the room and you say, whoa, I am talking way too much. I really have to narrow this down. How did you get to those 5 words?
I think the simplicity was learned over time from really the first 2 companies that I started that were very hard to describe. And because of that, I think that they were not as successful. I mean, I can look back on them and tell you what they were or what they became, and how I compartmentalize them. But that's not how I described them at the time. And so I was, always struggling for that. And that actually is like how I'm thinking about what's next is like until I can get it really simple and clear and concise and the value proposition there, it's not ready for
Right.
any next steps.
Right. It's so true. And I'm so glad you say that because, that's my line of work, obviously, is the communication side of it. And it is so overlooked. And I love that you're saying that from the tech side also, because so many people, I think of tech and they're going to make money, but they don't think about the communication side of it. They really don't. Like you said, you talk to a lot of people and they get into what it is they want to do and they can't explain it quickly. And if they can't explain it quickly, how can a consumer consume it? You know?
That's right. And it gets into everything. It gets into recruiting the team and giving then the team the tools to convey what we're all working on together so that they can be effective with their partners and in their job and their recruiting. So, being able to just hammer home exactly what we were doing over and over kept the focus on, kept the excitement high, and then also gave our customers tools to tell other people what we were doing. They were excited about it, but if it was like a several paragraph description of something, then the morality wouldn't be there. It just wouldn't have worked as well.
Yeah, so true. Okay, Sam, let's have some fun with this. Take me back to the idea swirling around in your head, that aha moment, if there was one. What was that like? How did this happen?
Yeah, so it first happened, I've been in online travel for, it's almost like 17 or 18 years now, and started after I got my business school degree. And I was interested in combining personal interest in travel with a business interest in building internet companies. And that's my background before business school. And so I started one, it didn't really work. And then I started another one, and it was what's known as a bit of a walking dead company. So it was profitable, but wasn't growing. We'd raised money, and it wasn't very fun to run because it wasn't a consumer brand. It didn't have that description. It couldn't, 99% of the traffic we paid for to get in. And that wasn't the type of business that I wanted to run. I really wanted to run something that people love to love and that brought something new to the world. And so I got frustrated about it for a little while, felt a little trapped. And then I said, well, Sam, stop being the victim. Let's do something about this. And I started writing down ideas. And one of the areas that I was really interested in was how mobile was going to change travel. And I started really thinking about that and thinking about times when I had been in a situation where I could have used something travel related on a mobile device. And it was really when I was stuck last minute, or when plans changed, or when I wanted to be spontaneous. So thinking about the App Store as a distribution point for a new way of booking a hotel last minute, that was the connection. And it wasn't, that said, though, it wasn't like a aha moment, I must do this. I said, there's something there. Like the spidey senses are going off. There must be something there. Now I'm going to think about that for a while longer. And I did, and I built it out. And, it was over the course of months building out the idea. And then one day I went to bed and I couldn't sleep because I was just thinking about it. And that was the next night too. I was just thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the one. I've got to go all in on this. It's inevitable that this will happen. And it's going to be really fun to make it happen.
Right. And will this be me, or will it be somebody else? But it's going to happen one way or another.
Exactly. I was actually pretty nervous because it was such an obvious thing that the world needed, that I was very worried that the incumbents were going to do it before I got there. Right. And almost didn't do it because of that. But
right. Okay. And so what was the it? Because is it what we see today? But what was the it that was swirling around in your head?
Yeah, it was a simple way to book a same-day hotel stay. So in a few taps, it was the fastest way to book a hotel stay in the world, may still be. It was 8 seconds to book a hotel, and really simple and straightforward, and then incredible deals at great hotels. So that was another big part of it.
Okay, so you have the idea, you wake up, you say, okay, somebody's going to do this. If I don't do this, it's going to happen. So what happens next?
Yeah, so we were able to take the existing team, or at least the CTO at the previous company, Dealbase, to pull him out. And we pulled just a couple $100,000 out of that business too. And I got the investors to say, okay, Sam, we'll give you a little time to see if you can do anything. This was in September. And based on that, little bit of money, I figured we'd have about 4 months to do this whole thing. So we had a lot to do and a lot to prove. We had, no idea if we could sign up a hotel partner. We had
Right.
no idea if we could build an app, let
Right.
alone get it approved by Apple. And then I also connected with an old colleague, actually met through Kellogg, Jared Simon, who had signed up hotels for Orbitz and one of the divisions at Orbitz. And, he loved the concept and wanted to help build it. He became a co-founder. And so the three of us just worked intensely for the next, really, it was only about 2.5 months to get the app ready to submit to the App Store. And it's crazy looking back on it, what, one can accomplish, what we accomplished in 10 weeks. It was also, a really wonderful and creative time, and there was tons of urgency. So I look back on that whenever I've got a daunting project ahead, and I was like, well, we built HotelTonight in 10 weeks, so certainly we can do this little thing in 10 weeks.
So when you say you built it in 10 weeks, does that mean from idea or, conception to sit down and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, we have the money, to launching it? What are those 10 weeks?
Yeah. So it was wireframes to start with. And the CTO had worked previously at Adobe on client server type of technology, which is essentially what an app is. So he was really well positioned to learn this quickly and take advantage of it, and really hit the ground running. And then we signed up the hotels, and we got approved by the App Store in, I think, mid-December. And so then we launched, and so it was pretty remarkable looking back on it, how quickly we were able to do it. We certainly cut some corners, and we turned some of the limitations that we had into strengths. So we launched with only 3 cities, and we made that very exclusive, that we were only in 3 to start with, right? And then
what were the 3 cities? What were the 3 cities?
It was New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, though it was like such a small part of Los Angeles, we called it Hollywood. So
okay.
really anchored around the Roosevelt Hotel.
And what were the hotels? Do you remember which hotels signed up?
Yeah. So what we did is go after the boutique hotels and the independent hotels, lifestyle hotels, and inspired by the Ace in New York. The whole brand was kind of inspired by the Ace of New York. And so that was what we wanted to do, is sign the most iconic boutique hotels in each city that would then help us get the rest of the hotels on board. Kind of like what Open Table did, but they went after the really high end and down. We went after the coolest and then outward. Okay. So in New York, it was the Ace Hotel, and in Hollywood, it was the Roosevelt, and in San Francisco, it was the Vitale, the Joie de Vie Hotel.
Okay. And do you remember how many people booked on that first launch?
Yeah, it's a number to remember because it was 0.
It was?
And it stayed that way for a while. Actually, I think we had 3 bookings that day, the next day, because I did an interview / video with TechCrunch, where I walked around with the authors and Sarah Lacey and Paul Carr, and we booked hotels. So I booked 3 hotels.
So you were the 3 people?
I was the 3 people. It was a while, maybe 2 weeks, until anybody really booked. And it's kind of crazy that they ever booked a hotel with us. Like, we were unproven. We were 3 guys.
If they only knew.
They only knew. They were like, essentially putting, their night into this company's hands. And so it was, we both looked at each other and were like, do you know this guy? Do you know this guy? Like,
someone must know him.
Must know him. We've tracked him down since then, but we didn't know who he was, and he had a great stay. So we were off and running, though it was pretty slow going. One of the I had all these metrics and goals for our first month, and a lot of them on the PR and the buzz side and the download side, we far exceeded. And people were interested in what we were doing. Apple was helping promote it. We were getting some buzz, but we weren't getting any bookings. I wanted to do 100 bookings in January, our first month of existence. And we ended up doing 55. Okay. And about half of those were either ourselves, like me doing Presta, or like our friends, where we said, hey, you're going to this city, you better book with us. Right. And so we really didn't have a business. And this is, continued for a few months, where it was like, we have something that people like, but it's not a business yet because they're not voting with their dollars. Mm-hmm. And ultimately that took until late April, early May. So almost 4 months. It was, kind of scary, to be honest, because we were about to run out of money, and I didn't know if it was worth raising more money or worth just trying to find a different home for the business.
So what did you do?
We hung on, and then with the hopes and the expectations that, hey, if there's excitement, if people are opening the app, if people are talking about it, eventually they're going to use it for what it's there for, right? There's nothing else for people to do really on it other than look at the deals, and that's going to get old, but they keep on looking. So there must be something more here. And as it turns out, the two things. One is that we launched in the lowest travel season, month or time of travel in the middle of the winter, especially for New York. And so that was a disadvantage for us, but didn't know that at the time. And then the other was that it just takes time for people to be in the right place to book a hotel. Like, they can find out about a great way to book a hotel, but they don't need a hotel for months from now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're in that situation and they booked and they loved it. And then we were able to get more of their travel dollar because they found more ways to use us. But that distance, it was very disconcerting, to say the least.
Right. So you said that after a few months, you were almost out of money. How much money did you start with? And then when did you have to raise money again?
Yeah, so we just had a few $100,000 that we stretched out as long as possible. And then we raised, it was around that April timeframe. We closed on a Series A. We had the negotiations were done. We were, just finding the final investors in January, but it still took a while to get it all done. And then we raised, it was a little over $3 million, and we had some breathing room. We could, get an office. We could hire people. We could add more hotels, and really build the team from that point on.
Okay, so you add more hotels, city by city. Do the big hotels suddenly start to pay attention to you?
Yeah, well, we continued with the independent hotels, and those are the hotels that need distribution more. They're more flexible with their terms. The big hotels are always a longer sales cycle. The larger the company, the longer the sales cycle, generally speaking. And so we started working with a couple of them, and though it did take some time, I think where we focused those efforts initially was on Las Vegas, which is really large. I mean, there's not a lot of independent hotels in Las Vegas, but we did have good conversations with MGM, with Sands, and Wynn was actually a very good partner of ours. And Steve Wynn's funny sort of story is Steve Wynn's son piloted this, and he put in a same day deal, really good deal, maybe 35% off. But there was an empty, there's a lot of empty rooms. It was sort of a slow night. And the first night on HotelTonight, this was probably year two, certainly not year one, but the first night they filled up 2 floors of the Wynn with HotelTonight.
Wow.
So great. And he was psyched. They started using us a lot, and we were doing very well for each other. And then his son, told his father about it, and his father was like, "Well, we don't like to discount, so you need to stop using HotelTonight." And he was like, but dad. So the lesson is, don't always tell your parents about the good stuff happening in your life, right?
Right. I was going to ask that. Do some hotels not want to discount?
Absolutely. And the most extreme example of this is the Four Seasons Group. They never discount, and they're so adamant about this that they actually almost went out of business in 2008. They would rather have gone out of business than discount. So There's definitely a number of hotels. And at as we expanded HotelTonight and took on more use cases, we were happy to have a hotel that didn't want to discount because we just wanted to send them business. And if somebody preferred to book there, if that was the right place and the right price for them, great. Now the hotels that did discount certainly picked up 20x more business.
Yeah.
But if they didn't want to discount, then nobody's forcing them to discount.
Yeah. So how many hotels did you end up with? You started off with 3 cities. Yeah. How many? What does it look like now?
Yeah, when we sold, it was about 100,000 hotels.
Wow.
And always adding more, and there's always new hotels opening as well. So yeah, always expanding.
Yeah, I saw that you wrote a bit about going from growth to profitability.
Yeah, that happened because, and it's really was my fault, and I'll take all the blame for it. Is that we had raised a bunch of money with promises of growth. We were putting that money to work, and it wasn't yielding as much growth as we expected. What it was yielding was a lot of expenses, so we were good at spending the money, but the bets hadn't been paying off. And I was slow to realize that and assume that we'd be able to raise more money instead of having to cut the growth investments. And that's not a very good bet to make, because as it turned out, was not able to raise that next round. And well, by the time we started slowing the growth investments, we were, dangerously close to running out of money. So built a plan to reorganize the company, and focus on getting to profitability. That was going to be both through continuing certain growth initiatives, but not and doing some new ones that maybe we weren't willing to do before, like launch a website, for example. And then also looking at our costs very, very intensely. And so on the cost side, we had to do a layoff. We laid off about 20% of the folks in the business, which was one of the worst days of my life. Was incredibly hard, and also necessary to make sure that the business was long-term successful.
What year into the business was that?
That was 2016, so year 6.
That was a big inflection point. Any other inflection points that come to mind that either when things were, wow, that really turned, that was a great moment, that's where we hit it, or wow, that was a lot tougher than we expected?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's going to be as intense as switching from growth to profitability,
Mm-hmm.
and focusing the entire company on cost savings, on EBITDA, which is another way to describe profitability and cash flow. That was such an intense change. I'd say that also in the early days, there was that 6 months in when I still wasn't sure if we were going to make it or not, and then my co-founder texted me over the 4th of July weekend when we did 50 bookings, right? So this was like half of what we wanted to do in January in one day. And he told me that there's a new online travel agency in town. And so that was, for me, that was an inflection point where I went from, okay, does the world even want this, to, all right, this is a tiger, let's take it by the tail and let's really see, how much of an impact we can make on the world.
I read also that you were really scrutinizing how you spent your time and your hours.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you get to that? Do you feel like you were wasting time?
Yeah, I mean, I was unhappy with where I was spending my time when I look back on my calendar and my week and my previous months. And when I looked ahead, even, I was like, all right, is this the right way for me to spend my time to get the most, not only the most for the company and the most for my family, but just the most personal satisfaction. And I do not like long meetings. I do not like agenda-less meetings. I do not like meetings that don't have a resolution. And I do like to talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
and I do like one-on-ones.
Mm-hmm.
And those are fine to have less of an agenda. But in terms of big group meetings that just go on and everybody starts looking at their phones, I can't stand that. And so,
and everybody does start looking at their phone. So that's a good point. People get nervous about those meetings, and then, you're like, they're not even listening to you.
Right. I mean, and on Zoom now, you don't even know if somebody's looking at their phone.
Right.
And those are the worst, because you can, the meeting room basically was a limiter of how many people could come to a meeting in the past. Now you can bring 100 people.
Yeah, right. Good point.
And anyway, so going back to my productivity, I started looking and scrutinizing those meetings and saying, hey, this meeting, is a standing meeting. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
This meeting and this area here, I'd rather spend on something else. And then led by example within the company. And so that level of discipline and that sort of way of working trickled down to every aspect of the business, and every leader and manager then adopted it, which I feel moved our business really fast, and also was great for the team, because they had more time to do the work that they wanted to do. and build things
Right.
than they did talking about building things.
Right, right. They probably were thankful. They were felt they were wasting their time as well, as so many of us do. And we started to look at really how we are spending our time. You didn't just jump into this. It's not like suddenly you got there. You had done other things before. I'm really curious. You talked about the other companies that you ran. I'm really curious, even before you ran those companies, what you were doing. You didn't, jump out of the womb and go, all right, I'm running this. What happened after college?
Yeah. So grew up in Virginia and then went to UVA. And after school, I moved to Los Angeles and with a goal of being a big budget movie director. And
Ooh.
very different from what I ended up doing, though more common than maybe on the surface. And so Spielberg and James Cameron were my heroes. And I got a job on the movie Scream with Wes Craven and Neve Campbell.
Doing what?
Well, on good days, it would be like reading scripts and trying to find Wes's new project. But on most days, it was getting laundry and mailing boxes and doing production assistant and assistant type of work. So, I had a lot of fun there. I mean, it was great to see a movie that then ended up becoming like iconic and a franchise. And everybody was incredibly nice, and it was
that's Hollywood. Everybody, everyone's happy and takes a meeting and then doesn't give you any money, and right.
Right. And the surprise for me, and why I ended up leaving Hollywood after 9 months after the movie was done, is that it wasn't as entrepreneurial as I expected. I expected the community would be there thinking about how to make movies and would have these side hustles and would go out and make movies on the weekends in the desert and sort of Robert Rodriguez style. And it was another person that I thought that, hey, this is somebody that's figured out how to make a movie on used car prices. Like maybe we can I can find people that are doing that. Couldn't find anybody that or even anybody that was doing and so I was sort of disillusioned by that element of it, and not being able to take control of a situation and make something happen. And so no problem. I had a great time, moved up to Northern California to pursue another interest of mine, which was technology and is technology, and worked at this company called CNET, which at the time was one of the sort of top internet sites and top internet companies around. And I was lucky to get a role there in sort of product management, and then worked my way during that was in 96. So worked my way for the next few years through a number of companies and had increasing levels of responsibility through the .com era. And then it all ended.
What do you mean? What do you mean it all ended?
Well, the .com bubble burst, and nobody was hiring, and the work that I had done became a punchline, a joke, the Pets.com joke or something. So I didn't work at Pets.com, but
you didn't work where? What'd you say?
At Pets.com.
Pets.com.
No, I didn't, but that was the sock puppet certainly was the front of a lot of jokes, and what I gained during that time, though, was mostly around an insight that starting a company, an internet company, a tech company, didn't require a lot of capital, was very much about the effort that you put into it. And I could do a lot of it myself even. And then lastly is that it would be fulfilling in the same way that directing a movie would be fulfilling. So having a vision, bringing something to market, making an audience happy, building a team around an idea and motivating them and guiding them and giving them focus to a common goal. All of the things that were exciting to me about a movie were capable and achievable with starting a tech company. So that's what my focus then became and why I started the first business a few years later. In 2004.
So then you go to business school and you get out of business school and then you start the other two companies?
That's right.
And you mentioned Dealbase, that you were not having fun. Why weren't you having fun?
It was the same way that I described what I was looking for in directing movies and becoming a CEO of a tech company. It was about creative expression. It was about bringing new things to the world. It was making people excited and happy and having something that they like to talk about and know. That's really fulfilling for me. As a sort of, at the end of the day, I'm kind of a creative type. and a creative background. And when we were running Dealbase, it got to be much more of an arbitrage type of business where we bought traffic for 10 cents and sold it for 12 cents, and became a math problem. And it became how good we were in negotiating to go down to 9 3/4 cents, right? So it's that part of it just it wasn't fulfilling, and like I said, we thought we would have something that had product market fit with from a consumer standpoint, that people would say, wow, this is a great way to find a travel deal. Ultimately, what we built wasn't a fit and didn't resonate with customers. We knew that pretty early on, and we probably would have shut it down earlier if we hadn't figured out how to make money with this arbitrage game, which, for better or worse, kept it afloat.
So shutting the doors made sense for you at that time. But when HotelTonight got to a certain point, you connected with Airbnb. How did that come about?
Yeah, I had actually known Brian for a long time. Brian's the CEO of Airbnb, and we met when I was CEO of Dealbase, and I saw Airbnb starting to ascend, and was very impressed with it, and reached out to him, and I said, hey, we're both travel CEOs in the Bay Area, and why don't we grab coffee? And we did. And then I went to the Roush Street apartment and was very inspired by the energy there and the excitement there. And it was clear that all of these people were changing the world. And so that actually was one of the motivators. Looking back on it, I didn't know it at the time, but it was one of the motivators for me to do something bigger than Dealbase that then led to HotelTonight. So in many ways, I have Airbnb to thank for HotelTonight.
Okay. So you had that coffee before HotelTonight.
Yeah. Exactly. And then we certainly stayed in touch, every few years or every year we would get together and trade, stories and ideas and emails. And we both had, a very similar way of looking at the world in terms of a design, appreciation of great design, and an appreciation of bringing new experiences to the world. And so then we talked about, is it makes sense to work together when it might, and we've had those conversations on and off, and it wasn't the right time for many years, and then until it was the right time. And that right time was when there was this opportunity to build a boutique hotel business within Airbnb, so that when people are looking for a longer stay, there's traditional Airbnb, or when they're staying with their family or staying with a bigger group. Mm-hmm. But if they're staying in an urban setting, for example, at the airport, right? There's no Airbnbs there, and there's limited Airbnbs in certain cities like New York. There's also great boutique hotels that feel a lot like Airbnbs. Part of that's because Airbnb has changed the world in so many wonderful ways that hotels have adapted. Either way, it was very complementary type of inventory. More business travel, more individual travel, shorter length of stay, mm-hmm. non-competitive with what Airbnb was doing, but really complementary and augmenting of it. And there was this opportunity to work together to build that. And so Airbnb has about 50 to 100 times as much traffic as HotelTonight. It would be a great opportunity for the team. It would be a great opportunity for our hotel partners. And personally, I was very excited about that opportunity of building something on a much larger stage.
It sort of happened organically, or was there this moment?
There were many moments. There were a lot of discussions along the way. It's hard to pinpoint exactly one. Most of the work that I did wasn't directly with Brian. It was with his team, and there were a variety of people involved mm-hmm. in the team. Mm-hmm. I think, though, that as we started talking about it more, we all got more and more excited about what we could do together, mm-hmm. and seeing how complementary the products and the services were, and then how similar the teams were. We're both based in San Francisco. We both have a very employee-friendly culture. Again, the design orientation of the businesses, and it's actually interesting. Independently, both Brian and I designed our offices to reflect the type of inventory we're selling. So Brian has recreated many of the Airbnbs within the Airbnb office, and we recreated a boutique hotel bar.
Bar, the bar, not the rooms, but the bar.
Not the bar, a gathering place,
Gathering place. Okay, so then you go. What year was that you sold to Airbnb?
2019.
Then you stayed on. And how's that experience when you stay on, when it's not really still yours?
I went in very clearly on knowing what it was going to be like and with a very solid integration plan. I think that there was a lot of work done ahead of time on what that integration plan was going to be like, what I was going to be focusing on, what success looked like, the span of control, who would be collaborating with me, et cetera, and the team and what the team would be working on. And I think that the deals that fail, that are, when a CEO comes in or when that's not clear and there's, a lot of questions and overlap on responsibilities and control. And so for me, it worked really well. And I had this area that I was going to be working on, with hotels. Team was going to be working on it. Here's the budget. Here's what we want to get out of it. And we were doing very, very well, tracking as expected along those lines. And then COVID hit. And
right.
and everything went out the window in terms of that integration plan. And then it was a bit of just hold on and see if we could get through it. It was, there was emergency financing that Airbnb needed. It was scary times. And the business Airbnb had to do a 25% layoff, which hit the hotels and the HotelTonight team even harder.
Yeah.
And it was the right thing to do, though, and the necessary thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And also helped focus the Airbnb business, which meant that the hotel initiative, along with many other initiatives, was put on hold. And so then I transitioned to helping with the vacation rental business, which is the professional host business. And it was fully on the Airbnb side. It didn't, HotelTonight was something that I moved to what's called a keep the lights on mode, or not as much. It didn't require as much of my time. How about that, right? And so I was able to really learn portions about the Airbnb business and contribute a lot there. And then I took over this guest experience role, which is a product role, working very closely with Brian, running product for the guest side of the marketplace. And that was a great opportunity and a huge impact that the team was able to make during that time that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
So, and then I moved to a role at the end of my time at Airbnb running a commercial team, which included account management and included sales communication and revenue management and a bunch of other sort of revenue generating operating businesses and units within the company. So looking back on it, wow, like not at all what I expected going in. Like I am very grateful that we had the opportunity to be there, especially through COVID. It would have been very hard for HotelTonight to be independent as an independent company had it been through COVID. And also grateful of all the things that I got to see and the impact that I got to be part of.
Yeah. So, wow, you've done a lot. What's next? What happens now?
There's a lot left.
There's a lot left. Well, speak to that.
Right now I'm on phase 2 of brain cleansing. Phase 1 was a few months where I was actually like still going pretty fast in my mind and didn't have, the professional outlets. So was doing a lot of stuff around the house. And big to-do lists, but, not really accomplishing anything.
Right,
and now I'm in phase 2, which is, kind of relaxing. We've got some graduations this spring and some travel. And so I'm, enjoying it and connecting with, old friends like yourself. And so that's part 2, and that's a lot of fun. I expect in the fall, I'm going to reach part 3. Well, who knows? It's a new territory for me, but I expect I will, where I'll become bored and looking for something, more significant to do. And when I do the inventory, I've thought a lot about like what brings me happiness, and I'm happiest when I'm building something new and bringing something new to the world. And one of the criteria for this time around is that it has some sort of a higher purpose and mission that really makes the world a better place. In addition to a great business, and in addition to something that people will enjoy.
Wow.
So that's the area of, or the goal for myself to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple areas that I'm looking at. and it's still very early.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to hear what you do next. Anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about? Any takeaways for those people who are maybe starting out in the tech world, have a big idea? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, what I see a lot is a lot of focus on the problem and solving a problem, which is great. And that's how entrepreneurs look at the world, is like, what's broken? How do I fix it? How do I improve it? And not as much focus on, if I build the best solution out there, how are people going to know about it? And I've found that is the hardest element of a company, is getting the word out. And so one way that I've heard others talk about it, I've thought about it, is to think about how you're going to get the word out first, and how you're going to distribute it first, and then figure out what you're going to build. So with
okay.
HotelTonight, it was, wow, the App Store is great. And I love my iPhone 1. And I can't believe that there's no good travel apps in the travel category. That's an opportunity, right? And people are looking for new brands. And there's going to be companies and huge, as it turns out, hundreds of billions of dollars of value companies that are built solely on the App Store. And that was the realization. And then I was like, all right, what are we going to build? To some extent, right? And I think that, thinking about what is your advantage on distribution, it could be that you're really good at sales and building a great sales team. It could be that direct-to-consumer marketing on Amazon better than anybody else. So you can build, have a product that you can sell more efficiently and effectively than anyone else. It could be that you're an influencer, or know an influencer. Whatever that channel is that you have some sort of an insight to or competitive advantage in, that can lead to then creating a great business and a great product that you sell. Versus it's an awful position to be in, to like have a great product but have no way to let the world know about it.
Yeah, well, it goes back to communication, right? How do you communicate it with your consumers?
That's exactly right. We did a lot of PR as well in the early days of HotelTonight, because there was no way to buy traffic for an app back then. No ads in Google or Facebook or Instagram or the App Store. It was all organic. So we treated our customers well. We did what we could with Apple to help promote. And I was out there a lot communicating the story to people.
Yeah, well, you said it. I love the beginning where you talk about, what is it? Your 5 words. What are they again? Same day, mobile, hotel, and deals.
You got it. Yeah, you remember. See, you remembered the 5.
Yeah.
If it was 6, you wouldn't have remembered.
Yeah. No, I did. I thought it was great. I can't wait to hear what you do next. You want to give us any insight into what part of the world you like? What is it climate change? Is it, you said, a bigger purpose that you want to share?
Broadly related to sustainability. That's one area. I'm also very interested in transportation. And there's a ton of opportunities there.
There is. Especially in California.
Especially in California, yeah. And budgets just keep getting smaller for governments, and there's an opportunity there for sure in a couple of ways. And then there's also, I've got to figure out if this actually makes the world a better place or not, but it would be really fun to come back to Hollywood and bring the past 20 years of expertise with apps and building tech companies with storytelling in some way.
And not to mention that you'd be in LA.
That would be the case, yes. I'll come on and tell you more once I figure it out myself.